Wish I was the president. It's the end of the month and what a year so far.
What the hell happened last Friday night?
Don't worry about that. That's part and parcel of football. If you ever look in the last 4 years, Collingwood Geelong games, we've either belted them or they've belted us. Been a couple of close games in amongst it, but the standard of football these days and the way it's played, if a team is off, whether it's physically or mentally 5 or 10% and the other team is on, you'll get blowouts. A lot of the talk about what's going on in the football world in relation to the stretching of lists, that's part of it, but even in the big teams, when a team gets going and gets on a roll, it can manifest itself on a scoreboard pretty quickly. Look, our guys played no contact football after halftime. We've done it did it in 2002, 2003, did it last year. It is something that happens. The Cats obviously had to get themselves up after their loss. Time will tell. In fact, 24 hours will tell whether or not that was a blip in what has been the most successful win ratio in the history of the Collingwood Football Club, or whether it's the start of something that we don't want to see. I'm pretty confident that we'll be right tomorrow at 2:30.
So you're telling the fans, stay with us?
Oh yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? Geez, it's the best year of all time to be on board. No, we're going well, and it is a really good time to be a Collingwood supporter. But the finals, wet weather in Melbourne, quality opposition, this is what you come to play for. You play the first 24 rounds to get to this position, and now it's on. And if we knew what was going to happen in sport, no one would go. The reason why we get big crowds is because no one knows what's going to happen.
Okay, so why do you think support for Collingwood is so polarising?
Well, I think the thing is it means more to our people. I really believe that Collingwood supporters have more investment. There's a sign up in our dressing room that says, he with the most invested is the last to surrender. And I think the Collingwood supporters, whether it's been ingrained from them from their fathers or their forefathers, or in my case, where I fell in love with the club when I was a 5-year-old, we have been through the hard times, we have been through the thin times, and now we're enjoying the positive times. But more importantly, I think our supporters, we've done surveys, and our supporters say the grand finals and the premiership, of course, that is the ultimate, but the journey is part of it, being part of the Collingwood army, having the fact that our club can tell the AFL to get stuffed, that we're prepared to stand up for our people, that we are very much engaged with our supporters. You know, the highlight to me of last year's grand final win came with Mick Malthouse and Nick Maxwell on the dais when they were presented with the cup, when the first reaction of both of them was not to turn to the cameras, not to turn to the MCC members, but to turn around behind the advertising hoarding and hold the cup up to our supporters in the Ponsford stand, to the Collingwood members. Now that was done through pure instinct. That wasn't orchestrated, that wasn't a PR campaign or anything else. That the players came to us and said, all we want on the run through to focus us up is side by side. Now that's a lyric that was written by the guys running around in calico jumpers up there on our team of the century back in the early part of last century for a song, Goodbye Dolly Gray, that was sung during the Boer War. That's how much it permeates into our club. It is in our DNA to side by side. The fact that we let unemployed workers in to build the stands at Victoria Park, the fact that the sustenance workers were fed at Victoria Park games during the Great Depression when we were the biggest team in the league, 1927, 28, 29, 34 wins in a row. That's what we did for our people. And I think in this era, the fact that we didn't go down and do an economic rationalist approach and play at Etihad Stadium and have a waiting list. No, we come to the MCG where for $2.50 every kid can get as good a seat in the house as the President or the Prime Minister. Doesn't make any difference. So we went to our supporters and said, we'll stand by you if you stand by us, and we've grown together. And that's the essence of the Collingwood Football Club.
Who have you had over for dinner more this year, Buckley or Malthouse?
Neither, actually, because I was renovating. But there's a very simple situation. This isn't an either or. This is together, again, side by side. The deal is that Mick Malthouse is the senior coach, and there's no person in life, not in football, no person in life that I have a higher regard for than Michael Malthouse. And Nathan Buckley is the future of our football club in coaching. Now that is an orchestrated transitional period. It's not about keeping Bucks, it wasn't about getting rid of Mick. In fact, the deal was done with Michael Malthouse as to how we should go. And we believe that 2 years was about going to get him to the end of his time as a football coach. Now, as you know...
Some of the fans are saying to me, Eddie, telling Madfan that if you win this flag, perhaps Buckley should step aside for 12 months and let Mick take the lead again next year. Is that a consideration?
No, it's not. Everyone knows. We announced what was going to happen. Mick is the coach for this year and last year, and we intended to win 2 premierships in that period. we had a document that was tabled in this very boardroom by Jeff Walsh and Michael Malthouse articulating that our time would be in this window of opportunity. So then we set about making sure that everything was right, sharpen everyone's focus to take advantage. We've got one premiership and we've got a big campaign ahead of us in the next month, hopefully. So we've got to do the job. So no one's worried about anything else. At Collingwood, everyone knows what they're doing. You know, maybe Canberra should take a bit of a leaf out of our book, and other organisations, whether it was the Liberal Party, who failed to make the transitional change at the optimum time and saw a Prime Minister become the second Prime Minister to get kicked out at an election in John Howard, who was with one of the great Prime Ministers, and they missed that opportunity. You could say the same thing as a result of that. We missed out on having Peter Costello. Same thing with
Peter Costello on the phone?
No, that was more important. That was my wife. But even more so, you have a look back and you go to Muhammad Ali. The only person who wanted Muhammad Ali not to fight Larry Holmes was his doctor, because he cared for Ali. Everyone else had all other skin in the game. At the end of the day, that's the thing we're doing here.
Some of the fans are saying to Madfan that if you should win the flag this year, that maybe Malthouse should get another 12 months. Buckley step aside. Is that a consideration?
People aren't that stupid. I mean, the disruption and all the heartache and all that sort of stuff. We've lost 3 games in 2 years, won the AFL Premiership, the NAB Cup, had the most successful season, have record membership and have a plan going forward. People have got to get onto the plan. There's 3 teams at the moment in the AFL, 1 month out from the national draft, who don't have even worked out yet who's going to select their coach. We know what we're doing. That's the idea. The idea is for Collingwood to be a top 4 side for years.
Okay, so some people in the media
Yeah.
have put some scuttlebutt out there that you've been feeding the Sharks, being Wilson and Sheehan, to destabilise Mick. Is that just crap?
That's one of the most offensive things I've ever heard in my life. I don't talk to Caroline Wilson first up, so you can take that one to the bank, and certainly not Mike Sheehan in that situation. That is just a complete nonsense. Why would I do that? Why would I destabilise my own person, who's my friend, and in a deal that's been done? The deal's done. If there's going to be any issue, that would have happened 2 years ago.
So
I mean, people. No, mate, I'm not even going to go down it. It's not categorically. It's the greatest crock I've ever heard in my life.
Mick will be here next year.
Mick Malthouse has got a contract for the next 3 years at the Collingwood Football Club. Nathan Buckley will be the coach.
If you, Eddie McGuire, could choose between being a Collingwood president and a Collingwood player, which would you have chosen?
Oh, play all
You'd
day.
love to play.
Yeah, well, I mean, you knew me when I was a cadet, when I was, trying to get a clearance from North Melbourne under 19s to Collingwood. I mean, the dream was always to play. I never had any intention of being the president of Collingwood, and certainly at the time when my role in the media, it just was incongruous to even think to be the president. I came down, the club wanted some help to find some sponsors, and the place was struggling a little bit, and as it turned out, I think the job chose me rather than me choosing the job. But, the essence of football is to play.
On that point of racism and sledging, you have pretty strong views. What is your position?
I know when the racism thing was big in the 90s, and we got on top of it and had a zero tolerance. I got received letters, I got a file that thick from people saying we thought we had to be the most obnoxious. We thought that being a good supporter was to get inside the minds of Nicky Winmar or Jimmy Cracker and these people. And when we said no, we don't want that. In fact, our players hate it, and no one wants it at all. There was almost a sigh of relief. And now what we need to do is continue to make sure that the standards don't slip. That the chanting of rapist in recent times, that's not racist, but it's dehumanising. And that's when I went off about Andrew Cracker, this guy from St Kilda, who pulled his head in. It only needed me to tell him. But I'd sort of said what everyone else wanted to say, but no one was prepared to. So if we get to a stage of the football where people say, hey mate, pull up, that's not acceptable. You don't need to have people arrested, don't need to have them thrown out. And so long as that they respect and pull their heads in, then the football should be a place to go and enjoy the field of dreams. It should be an adventure playground. It's the greatest thing you can do to take your kids to learn about winning and losing and disappointment and courage, and people who are idiots off the field who are geniuses on the field, and people who are idiots on the field who are geniuses off the field, and all of life's rich tapestry. But what we don't want to have is at a place where it becomes a place of vitriol. And maybe it's my Scottish background, where I've seen the Celtic and Rangers scenario, which seemed to have got under some sort of control until recently. And last year we had letter bombs and bullets and death threats and things. I mean, we're 100 miles from that, But we don't want to get to 99 and then find we're at 80 and then we're at 75 and 50 miles from it. We want to keep going that way, not that way, towards intolerance at the football.
Are there aspects of the game that you would like to change?
No, I love the game. The thing that people get all wrought about is the in the back rules and things like that. That's all part of it. It'll evolve. I mean, that's what we have to do.
There's a bit of scuttlebutt at the moment about the draw. Andrew Dimitriou's come out and said that it's not perfect and said therefore it's probably not fair.
Well, possibly. I mean, look, when we were getting belted in the early part of this century, in the early 2000s, we weren't rapt that we were playing Carlton and Essendon all the time because they were killing us. And it wasn't much fun having to face them off twice a year and all the rest of it. But we understood that for the TV and the crowds and that type of thing, it was a good thing. Look, there's only one way for it to be legitimate, and that is to have, they play each other once and have a final series and have the home team play the away team the next year. That's the easy solution to it. But if there are deals done for stadiums and for TV and the collective bargaining agreement with the players and X amount of dollars and they have to get the money to this level, then that's the rod they've made for their own back. But yeah, quite simply, you either play each other once or twice, home and away in a season would be the best, but there's too many teams now. You can't elongate the season. You just can't because you've got cricket and everything else. Or you play a shorter season, play each other once. Now, we're probably getting closer to that, to be perfectly honest, and that would be maybe a good thing. Maybe that down the track is for player welfare and for the fairness and all the rest of it. But people have to take a haircut if that's going to be the situation.
Do you think the players get paid enough?
The players should get paid as much as possible.
They are the game.
Well, they are the game for a moment.
Yep.
But what they have to be conscious of is that they have to leave the game better than it was, just like all the people in that photo over there and the one behind me have done along the way. You are here and we must leave it, just as there's been presidents along the way who have made landmark decisions at Collingwood long before I was even thought of. You have to take that responsibility, but this game is still a cooperative and there must be something for the next people coming through. So they've got to be very careful. We have to be able to still put money into the development of the game, into resources, into stadiums, all those types of things. So you've got to leave a little bit on the table, but they deserve to get as much as they possibly can. Because, yeah, they are the athletes, they're the ones putting their body on the line. But also, if we're going to have people wanting to play our game, it's got to be the number one game in this country. So that when Joe and Alexander McGuire look and think, geez, I wouldn't mind playing basketball, but God, I have to go and play in America and I need to be 7'2" and probably black to be able to do it. I'm none of those things, right? Do I want to play cricket? Geez, it's hard to get into the Australian cricket team. There's only 15 teams. You know, maybe now with 2020 that'll expand a bit. What about soccer? Geez, I'm going to have to live on the other side of the world and it's pretty hard to get into the Manchester United team. There's only 11 every other week. What about Australian rules football? There's 770 blokes living in Australia having the best lifestyle of all time and getting paid an average of nearly $300,000. I like that. And I play with my mates and I play at the MCG and I'm the local hero in my backyard. And I get paid as much as we can possibly get. That's a good deal, and that's what football has to continue pushing towards.
Is Maxwell going to start in the forward line this week?
Well, I wouldn't say if I knew.
I've got $5 here, Eddie. Perhaps you could put it on West Coast for me.
I know where I'll put that $5, Rick, and it ain't the TAB.
But listen, it raises that question, the betting. Is that a big concern?
I was the one who put it on the record a couple of years ago at a president's meeting. I think it is a bigger cause for concern, or as big, as illicit drugs. And the opportunity for match fixing to destroy a sport is enormous, and we've seen that happen in sports before. Look at boxing these days. Boxing used to be the biggest sport in the world. Now, it comes and goes, but no one cares. You can't have it, and there should be a zero tolerance. And to be perfectly honest, the AFL should look at even toughening up their stance. Now that there's been a couple of everyone should know by now. The next step is just zero tolerance. If you want to be involved in this game, it's just a straightforward decision. To use the Ellen Jeans, you've got to pay the price. Well, the price of being involved in one of the greatest industries, if you're a player, the amount of money and the opportunities, if you're a coach, the same thing, if you're on the board, your decision to be involved and the fun, but also, the dedications and all the things that come from being involved in a great cause. If the downside is you can't have a bet on the footy, when you can bet on racing, greyhounds, go to the casino, buy a Tatslide, whatever, To me, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And if the integrity of the game is in question because of that, then it makes even less sense to be allowed to bet. Zero tolerance, and to be perfectly honest, it should extend into the football media as well.
I wish I was a